Hi, art students. So it's time for art again, and let's talk about the end of the trimester. So the end of the trimester is coming in 2 weeks. So just make sure that all of your assignments are turned in and you have a grade for them. And how can you do that? Well, you can check Power School, right? So check Power School. You go on there and you see if you got a grade for your project. If not, then that means you haven't turned it in, you haven't turned in your project, um, or it was turned in as a no name and I don't know it's you. So make sure if you know for certain that you turned in your project but you don't have a grade for it, then send me an email. Say, Mr. Smith, I turned in whatever project it is, and you're like, I'm sure I turned it in, you know, could you check to see if you have, you can say something like that, like, could you check to see if you have it somewhere, or if it's a no name. I have some no names. I'm trying to pass them around so that we can find out who is who, right? So, but I can't grade it if it doesn't have a name on it. So make sure you have a name on it. But if you have some projects that you need to make up, hurry up and finish those so that I can grade them, right? And let's see, October 30th is the last day. Yeah. So you can't turn in your work after October 30th. That's the end, right? So make sure I get all of your older work before then. Okay? Um, okay. So now it's time for Godzilla of the Week, right? So you guys voted no love for Batra. I don't know why. Jet Jaguar won with 14 votes, and Legion was second place for 8 votes, and then Batra and Mogra had 5 votes each. So they're out. So I'll show you Jet Jaguar today, and then next week we'll do Legion. So I won't have another survey for next week. I'll just show you Legion because Legion's pretty awesome, and I've been wanting to show you him. Anyways, here's Jet Jaguar. So he's pretty cool. He's actually he's a robot that fights Godzilla monsters. He's kind of like Ultraman. So what happened was there's a real popular robot fighter called Ultraman, and Godzilla needed an Ultraman like character, and so that's where Jet Jaguar came in. He was in, I believe, as Godzilla versus Megalon. It's an old one, but it's pretty cool. Jet Jaguar, he fights Megalon, and I think it's Gigan. Gigan's pretty rad. And then Godzilla helps him out, so he kind of teams up with Godzilla to fight those monsters, and it's pretty sweet. It's pretty kind of cheesy, but when I was your age, it was kind of awesome, and it kind of still is awesome. But to today's standards, it's not that great special effects, but it's a lot of fun, a lot of cool kung fu robot action fighting Godzilla monsters. You can't go wrong with that. The cool thing about this model is they have like, he just looks like a robot, right? And you're like, no big deal. But they actually have a lot of weird details that resemble like the limitations of the foam. It was like a foam rubber suit that when they made the movie. But like right here, you can see here's some seams where they like kind of sealed it on the suit, and they actually kind of like made that bump on the model. Like, that's not a mistake. That's like the model, the suit was like that. And then they also have this. See how he's got this like little, it looks like a little flap. That was like, that hid the zipper of the suit. So like in the original movie, this piece would come off and there'd be a big zipper there, and then he would just zip out and get out of that suit. So it's kind of cool that they have details like that. So anyways, that's why I like these models. They're really cool. But anyways, this is Jet Jaguar. He's pretty sweet. He's like Ultraman. If you're kind of interested in karate and kung fu fighting monsters, then you definitely got to check out Ultraman. All right? Okay. So next week we'll have Legion, and let's get on to the part where we do some artwork. Hey, fifth graders. Today we're going to talk about our Kaleidoscope project. This is our third week on our Kaleidoscope. First week we started to draw our Kaleidoscope. Second week we colored it in. If you remember last week's video, I didn't have mine colored in, so I hurried up and colored it in for today. So you want to have your full Kaleidoscope colored. You can use markers, colored pencils, crayons if you don't have anything else, but really you want to try to use markers and colored pencils if you got them. You can use both if you want. So like I used, and we talked about this last week, right? So I used colored pencil for this background, but then I used marker for these other parts. I used some colored pencil. Whatever works best for you. You can do the whole thing in colored pencils if you like. That's fine. Colored pencils are nice because they don't run out of ink, right? Markers run out of ink and they don't look very good. But even with colored pencils, it's kind of hard to get it perfectly solid. So try your best to make it kind of solid as best you can. But I don't know. That's that. You want to make sure your name is on the back of this thing. Let's see. I don't have my name on it. Oh, I do. It's right here. It's hard to read. Mr. Smith. And then put your the letter of your teacher. So if you got Johnson, you put a J, circle it. If you got Vervelde, you should put a V and circle it. Okay. But now we're on this part, and we want to trace our shapes and our designs. So you want to find a, well, the best pen is this guy right here. The Ultra Fine Point Sharpie. And I think I can't stress enough. You say, hey, mom and dad, can I go get an ultra fine point Sharpie? It's not the, like, oh, we got a Sharpie. I'm like, no, it needs to be the real thin one like this. And they'll be like, oh, I don't want to go to the store. I don't blame them. I don't want to go to the store either. But you can say, hey, mom, next time you go to, like, Target, can you just pick one up? It's ultra fine point, and it's really thin. But these are useful to have around the house. I would send these home, but I kind of don't have enough to send home to everybody. I sent them home earlier. Maybe you still have them. We did them for the Starbucks cup. So if you still have this pen at home, then great. Return it though. Like return it when you're done with this project. I want this back. But return your Ultra Fine Point Sharpie if you got one at home. If you already returned yours to school, good. You were supposed to. Just maybe you can find another Sharpie like this, or you can just go get one, or you could really use anything. Any kind of thin marker. Like here's a real thin Crayola. That'll work. Even something like this. This doesn't work as good as the Sharpie, but this is like a little black pen. It will work. So whatever works best is going to be great. Okay, so what we want to do is we just want to trace all of our shapes, but what we don't want to trace is this line. So see this X? Don't trace that. You're like, well, Mr. Smith, it's already kind of a dark black line. I know, that was because of the photocopying. We kind of couldn't avoid it. So it just became a dark line. It would have been nicer if you couldn't see that line. But let's not trace that line. We're going to trace the other shapes. Okay, this one's running out of ink. Maybe not. But if we trace all these other lines, you won't pay as close attention. You won't pay as close attention to this line, although that line is pretty dark. Okay, but that's what you're going to do this week. You're just going to trace everything. Take your time and be careful. You don't have to trace the outer circle. You don't have to do that. But you're going to trace everything else and just be neat about it. Like, see how slow I'm going? See how not fast I'm going? That way it will look neater. Right? And it's, watch, I'm just going to do this one area. I should have done this one because I already did that last time. Well, here we go. But you'll see how much nicer it looks. Oh, by the way, it's hard to see here, but my marker went outside of my pencil line. You're like, oh, Mr. Smith, what do you do about that? What you can do is, the color is so much darker than the pencil line, I'm just going to kind of follow that marker line like this. Right? I just kind of followed that instead. And here the marker went beyond the pencil line. I'm just going to follow that red outline. You just want your design to be as neat as possible. You might have to go over it twice. I'm curious if a regular Sharpie will work. Let's see, do I have one handy? me see here. Oops, I'm moving the... I don't have one handy. Let me see if I got one in my bag. I do. Nope, no, that's not it. Oh, here's one. I'm curious, because these are much more common at home. Let's see. I'm gonna experiment, because this, I didn't realize how thin this was. This is really thin. Now, this will work the best, but I got a feeling if you're really careful and don't press down too hard, this might work. Let me find out. Yeah, it's not too bad. So if you have a regular, yeah. Here's the thing though. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'll do this whole shape. Here's like a oval and a square. Okay. If you don't have an ultra fine point Sharpie at home, this is a regular fine point Sharpie. I call it a regular Sharpie. It's not that fine. But if this is if you have a newer Sharpie at home, and you can kind of tell the tip is still kind of pointy, but if it's all like blunted and like dull and it makes a real thick line, you might want to test on another piece of paper and see how thin your line is. And you don't press down very hard. If you don't press down very hard, you'll still get kind of a thin line. And that works pretty good. So it's okay if you use a regular Sharpie. This is more common. You probably have this at home. But this is really nice and thin. This you almost have to do twice. Like I kind of go over it once. Boy, you can barely see it. Like if your line is too thin, you almost have to do it again. But I don't know. This might be an older one. So maybe if you have a newer ultra fine point Sharpie, it'll probably work okay. The trick is to be neat. So just try to be as neatly as you can, and you're going to trace everything. And it will take some time. It takes time. It takes time to do this. Okay, so I'm going to finish this whole little area, and we'll see what it looks like. I'll do this. When you do it too, you don't just have to do one little area. Like if I'm going to trace the star, I could go all the way around and trace that star in one thing. I'm just going to do this one quadrant. So, well, it's a quadrant. It's a quarter. It's not a quadrant. Because it's a circle. But you get the idea. But there, you want to be neat. Even this weird shape I want to trace around. Yeah, I got a feeling that a regular Sharpie will work okay too. So whatever you like. Regular Sharpie, like I said, you might have a regular Sharpie. Just make sure it's not dull and like super old and out of ink. Then I wouldn't recommend it. But if it's almost new, or and test it on a piece of paper. If it looks okay, you can go for it. It'll give you a nice thicker bold line, but you just don't want to press down too hard. Don't press down too hard with that regular Sharpie, because then your line will get too thick. You don't want to get too thick. And if you have, and they make Sharpies that are thicker than this, don't use those. Those are way too thick. We have them at school. You probably have used them before. I don't know what they're called, but they're like mega Sharpies. Don't use those. Those are way too thick. Boy, my red outlines are like way outside of my original drawing. Whoops. Sometimes if you went outside your pencil line a little bit, but you do your marker on top of it, you can kind of correct it a little bit. Like you can kind of get a little neater. Like your black line is more noticeable than your coloring lines, and it looks much neater. And that's why we're doing it. Okay, I'm just gonna do. I'll do this. Try to get right on the edge. Let me show you what I'm gonna do if you don't get right on the edge. Okay, so let's see. Actually, this is pretty good. I got it pretty good. But see, like right here, so there's like a little white, like there's a little white spot there. I'm just gonna put my marker. I'm gonna kind of go over that part again, so the black line's a little thicker, just to cover that up. So watch. I'm just gonna go. Or I guess technically you could also get your marker and just color it into that spot too. So I'm going to kind of do that. I'm going to kind of fix this up a little better. Yeah. And then like right here, I got a little, there. So, you know, I just, well, you probably don't have to do it that much because now it's really noticeable. But anyways, I got rid of that little mark. So that's it. Let's see. Yeah, here I can go a little bolder around it. Oh, I messed up a little. Don't worry if you mess up. Your goal is to just try to do it as neatly as you can. Okay. So you're going to trace the whole thing. Remember, you don't have to do the circle part. You don't have to do that because we're going to, Mrs. Curry and I are going to cut it out. And you don't have to cut out your circle because this might protect it if you put it in your folder. So like if the corners get dented a little, it's okay because we're just going to cut out the circle anyways. So that's it. So you want to make sure you finish coloring. Color everything. Don't leave white. You're like, oh, Mr. Smith, I really want to leave white. No, color. So if you want to have a lighter color, then maybe you have some lighter markers. But yellow is the lightest. Maybe you have like a light peach or a light pink. You can do that stuff. But I want to see all color. I don't want to see a lot of white because I have a lot of lazy students who they don't color, like they only color some little details and then everything else is white and it's like too easy. So I want you to color your whole kaleidoscope. You can have dark colors and light colors. In fact, I highly recommend it that you have dark colors and light colors so that they separate. Like if everything's dark, it'll be hard to kind of tell. What I did was I used a light color background with darker color details. But maybe you want to have lighter color details with a darker background, right? Usually you pick one or the other. It's up to you. But anyways, you want to color the whole thing and then you want to outline everything and that's it. That's all we have to do. This is due October 22nd. So make sure you finish this. And then if there's a project you haven't finished, make sure you have a little extra time before October 29th. So make sure you finish up all your other old projects. If there's a project you haven't finished, finish it up and turn it into school so I can give you a grade for it. If you're not sure if you turned something in or maybe you just want to make sure that I received it and graded it, you can check Power School. So you can have your parents check Power School and say, hey, mom or dad or parent or whoever, could you check Power School to see if all my art grades are in? And they'll check and they'll see if there's like an empty spot for a grade or orange square. An orange square means missing. So if there's an orange square or there's no grade, that means I haven't graded it yet, meaning I haven't gotten it yet and I haven't, or it might be a no name, right? Now, I don't come in until Tuesday. Like I'm not at school on Monday. So like if you turn in your work on Monday, yeah, I don't got it yet. I don't come in Thursday either. I only come in on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So if you turned in your work this Thursday, I didn't get it yet. But I will get it Tuesday, so don't panic. Just realize that I only come to school on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So if you turned it in Monday or Thursday, I don't have it yet, but I will get it Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday. But anyways, you can check and see if there's any projects. Like if you're missing a grade and you know you turned it in, then send me an email and say, hey, Mr. Smith, I finished whatever, the Starbucks coffee doodle, and I don't have a grade for it. So I have a couple no names for stuff like that. So maybe I just don't know it's you. But I'll try to get that back to you, or I don't know, we'll try to figure out who they belong to. Okay, so finish this. Finish up any other art projects you have to finish up. Watch some back videos. You go back and watch, oh, I didn't do the whatever. What else did we do in this class? We did the scratch fish. Oh, and if you need art supplies, they're in the office. So like, oh, I need a fish, like the paper. It's in the. There should be a couple extra copies in the office. Your teacher may have copies in the art folder, so you can ask, do you have any more of the whatever project you need? Do you have any more of the art, the scratch fish? She'll check, and then if she doesn't have it, you can just get it in the office or whatever. So. But that's it. So finish up your work. The end of the trimester is coming, October 30th. Finish this. Finish any other projects you have, and have a good week. So I'll see you next time. Bye.